Yo, what is up, Bad Union fans, and welcome to the Union News Week 6, or number 6, with your two analysts, myself, Schady, and
myself, Shroomraver. Hello there, everyone.
yes, indeed. And today we're going to go over as usual, the fixtures from last week, the games that happened, as well as the games next week, and bench trades and transfers and all that stuff, as well as a bit of shit talking at the end.
Yep, absolutely.
So, is there anything you want to say?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we just want to say there's a few really interesting results that we've seen. We saw a timeout. We've seen 5 out of the 6 games. One of them has not been put up yet, but we'll get onto that later. And a couple of really close ones as well. So I believe Schady is going to be kicking us off this week.
Indeed, I like kicking. We're going to start off with Adamant Golden State Dragons taking on Xenon and the Slovenian Argonines, and that's in fact the timeout. 5-3 for Anima. One hell of a battle. Tangler putting the finest of work, which makes me, as a lower tier player, incredibly happy, because Tangler is beautiful. A lot of toxic stalling from Anima's side. Under preparation for Mega Scissor, which led this to taking so long. Relying on Alan Waller to some extent. And yeah, that's that. The timeout was not fun to watch.
I think I was watching it on 1.5 times speed to
I was not smart enough to
crack on through it. But Anima played it very well. I haven't seen her play a massive amount of stall on her channel, but she showed that she's very good at doing it.
I mean, it wasn't necessarily stall; it was just stall E.
A little bit, yeah. On Xenon's side, a couple of things Among Us is on the bench, and it just destroys Anima's core. Similarly, Electros can do massive amounts of work. I disagreed with the set. And, having a poison type, not that Xenon was to know that Anima was bringing Toxic on 2/3 of her team, but Among Us would have really helped against that. Certainly, especially given that it can, as I say, take on Tangler and Alamola fairly effectively, especially if they're both dropping Antipowdon, yeah, all trying to drop Toxics around, and Among Us just likes to eat those kind of things up. But as it was, he was just unable to break down those walls, and Anima was able to take the victory at the end.
Yeah, he had to take a risk of SDing on Alamola, which it's not a smart thing because you're gonna get burned. That's how Squad works.
Yeah, pretty much.
So kind of unfortunate for him that Alamola is just such a fat piece of things.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Very much so. Moving on to the second game.
Was the first timeout, I think?
Was that the first time?
Yeah, it was the first timeout. We had
I think so.
Before. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Indeed. So, the second game saw Richie and Liv Wimple FC taking on the Highland Houndooms in the final match, coached by interim manager Ethan Erasmus, both sitting at 1-4 going into these games, and Richie able to take the 2-0 win. I liked a lot of his sets. I'm a huge fan of Rindo Berry Avalanche Rhyperia to take on those two powerful leaf-storming threats on the Houndoom's side, of course in the form of Mega Sceptile. That's how you say it, Ethan. It's Sceptile.
I think he's a bit skeptical about the pronunciation.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
That was terrible.
Shots fired. Yeah, his other grass type, of course, being the contrary boosting Serperia. I really liked Rindo Avalanche Rhyperia. That was fantastic. He brought Recover on Milotic, which, that's nice. We like that. He also had a really useful mod in the form of Golbat, which just ate the special hits for days.
He kind of misplayed, in my opinion. He should have roosted and stuff.
Yeah. On the other side,
Scepter was in low health. He should have roosted.
That was something that should have really. But these little misplays, they do happen. It didn't cost him too much. On the other side, again, there was some top team building done by Ethan. I loved Agility Mega Sceptile. That was very nice. I like Agility. I think it's a cool move. He was umming and ahhing over Taunt over a fire move on Skuntank. Personally, I agreed with him going for Taunt. Especially when you've got the likes of Golbat on the other side of the field. Something like Taunt could be really nice.
However, I don't agree with switching in Skuntank on Mawile, because sub on Mawile is not something surprising.
Yeah, and
I feel like it was not his optimal play.
He allowed him to be behind a sub for far too long for my liking.
Yeah.
When you've got a Mawile behind a sub, take out the sub. as
Yeah.
soon as possible.
Rocks weren't that important, I don't think,
I
personally.
think he wanted them for the role on Kieran Black.
Yeah, but no, I don't agree. I mean, it worked out in the end because Richie went for the SD, not expecting the bullet punch.
Yeah.
So at least that worked out. So yeah, that's that, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
There are a lot of things I don't agree with in this game, but we're gonna go over that in the power rankings.
We will indeed.
And with that, we move on to the next game. Freedomian and the Welchians taking on Gabriel and the LA Luxray. A really interesting game that I looked forward to. And in a 1-0 for Frito. Once again, this man does not like... He just really likes close games, let's put it like that. 6-0 Frito is dead, apparently. This was also a really interesting game. Because at the end, Infernape, which was scarfed, lived on 11 HP in an earthquake from the Altaria. And that died to the poison that the aforeused gunk shot caused. So once again, really close. This time not a 0-0. But really good game from both sides. Mainly Gabe. I think Gabe played a bit better.
Yeah, I would agree.
And he just gave the end game away. Turn 1 was incredible. I don't blame Frito, to be honest. I really don't. Because thinking about Hypercutter, Scarf, Glasgow, I don't think it comes to your mind anytime soon. But exactly what happened. Turn 1 Mega Network went down to the Scarfed Hypercutter, earthquaking Gliscor.
Very enjoyable
Beautiful.
to see that. Really good
Beautiful.
stuff from Gabe. You know, Gabe's team building, once again, his prediction of Frito's team was on point. I mean, so when he was looking at Empoleon on Chomp sets, he actually had them perfect, other than the items. He had the movesets down, he knew what Frito was going to bring. And, you know, I love seeing a Carmine Duxie as well. That's always something I like to see.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, and he did the neutral nature thing again, with Gudra this time.
Yeah.
Going for the mix out, I liked that. Again, the end game I wasn't sure about, but the plays with Amberpom, were phenomenal. Just some of the best mind games I've seen so far in this league, I think. Trying to convince Frito that he didn't have Gunk Shot, going for a couple of returns, then switching up to Knockoff when he knew the Protect was coming, and then finally going for Gunk Shot when he was convinced that Frito thought he didn't have it. Completely intentional and completely brilliant from Gabe, I think.
Very good. Very well played.
So, anything else to add to that one?
Nope, I don't think so.
Okay, so we'll move on to Game 4, which was the All Somerset Sizzles and Sizz versus Josh and the Kentucky Kecleons. We know two things about this game. Well, we know three things about this game. Firstly, it hasn't been uploaded yet. Secondly, it was a 1-0 victory, I believe, to Josh and the Kentucky Kecleons. And thirdly, there were apparently some absolutely game-changing hacks going on in that game. We, as of yet, don't know the extent of that. We, as you say, we haven't seen the battle. That's taking a little bit of time to upload on either side. So, you know, we'll have to go over that in more detail on Thursday. We'll bring you that news then, let you know exactly what happened in that game when we know more about it. But, you know, never nice to see that, is it? These game-changing hacks that really mess up teams on one side.
Like I said, on either side, as if Josh would ever upload.
I'm hopeful. I want him to.
So am I, but he won't.
As I said it, I realised, like, he doesn't upload battles, does he? But maybe one day we'll see him upload.
The dream.
Hashtag upload Josh in the comments down below.
Why would you upload Josh? He's not... Oh, never mind.
Shut up, Shoddy.
Okay, well, now we move on after that unfortunate game.
Yes.
To Kyle and the Blastburn Rovers taking on Eric Ashnakai and the Bristol City Fletchlings. 2-0 victory for Kyle and the Blastburn Rovers. Once again, very well prepared on Kyle's side. He did a bit more speed creeping things, as in putting more speed or less speed into a Thunderous, giving it more bulk. After I convinced him that putting more bulk is useful. So it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna fix some EV spreads, and he did it. So I'm happy. But Eric started very, very badly this game. Over prediction turn 1, which was not necessary in the slightest, leaving his talent frame on a Scarfed Thunderous, clicking the old Brave Bird button and then just dying to a Volt Switch. Kind of no reason not to click Volt Switch. He didn't have to overpredict, expecting Auden or Chansey. Auden would have been a safe play in my opinion because you don't risk a whole lot.
Yeah.
No item loss, and he's not going to go for superpower. That's just not a thing. We don't mess with threats. That's that's pretty much that.
Yeah.
But Hariyama pulling through, and it made me really happy.
Yeah, I liked the Yama build. It was helpful for Kyle that the one thing that could really hit Yama very hard went down first turn, of course, in the form of Talonflame. Hariyama speed creeping Scizor, which I was really happy to see. Speed creeping a bulky Scizor. Some other really nice things on the side of Kyle and the Blast Monroe is counter Slowking. I didn't even know Slowking got counter.
That's something I want to pick off on. I'm not sure I agree with that because that means he had to give up on Regenerator, which I don't think it's worth at all because Regenerator is just so good, and counter is not gonna come into clutch anytime soon. Also, Kyle's anti-team get 2 killed by Bandit Bravebird.
Yeah,
entirely. If rocks are up, because Thunderous can, as we saw, maybe live too. But defensive Slowking gets 2 KO'd. I did the calc just in case, but I was pretty sure.
Yeah, and of course the problem with running no regenerator on Slowking, you could say, of course it gets slack off, but by the time you've taken a hit to launch a counter, Slowking is going to be getting outsped by so many things. You're not going to get that slack off necessarily. Yep. So, it was a risky strategy. It didn't really come into play in this game as it was, but I like the idea of it. I like the unexpected nature of that kind of thing.
I have a couple more things I want to point out real quick. Kyle had Psychic on his Thunderous, which there was no reason to. Tentacruel gets hit by T-Bolt, and Mienshao is not a thing that you prepare for to do damage to with Psychic because T-Bolt is an OHKO.
Yeah.
With like 80% chance, I think I counted. Back to Eric, his 2 walls were complete and utter setup for an sub-SD pincer, which I'm pretty sure that's what Kyle had. I don't remember.
Yeah, I think he...
I think so. They both couldn't touch it, they couldn't break the sub, nothing. Doesn't sit well with me, but the good thing about Eric, he did calcs before knowing, he can live this and that. This does that much damage. I like that, so props for that. Yeah, that's that.
Yeah, and... my only other thing to say about Kyle is the fact that in the comments, it was interesting to look at the comments of his video, people saying, I don't understand why you were sacking so many things. He managed to get the massive differential win last week. Now it's about maintaining those wins. Looking ahead, he had to do those sack plays. It's not going to be every game going to be getting 5-0s, that's not how it works.
You don't always have to risk something just to get a higher differential. I think
very much so.
Safe play is always better.
Yes,
necessary.
And whilst this is a differential-based league, at the end of the day, we all know that wins are more important.
With a shout to Super Blah.
Sorry?
With a shout out to Super Blah, who did exactly that, just went fuck the differential.
Very much so, very much so. So, moving on from that to the final game, and we saw Bice and the Twin Leaf Tyrants taking on Enzo and the Swiskers. Bice taking a nice and useful 3-0 victory there. He really brought the pain with his team. Swords Dance, Life Orb, Weavile.
Don't remind me.
Overkill incarnate. It is just massive overkill. Pair that with an Aegislash because why not? Why not bring Aegislash? Again, his team I really enjoyed. It's important to pay attention. He forgot about Unburden on Slurpuff. Which cost him his Mega Pidgeot. Yeah. Never forget about Unburden and Slurpuff. It's what Slurpuff does.
And he was slightly... Okay, go ahead.
He wasn't going against the Belly Drum set. It was just set up defense, set up other defense, get the Citrus and tank hits and go for Dazzling Gleam and Flamethrower, I believe it was.
Yeah. He was underprepared for Venusaur, like massively. He only had his Pidgeot, which died because he forgot about Unburden.
Yeah.
And then he just had nothing and got lucky that he managed to kill it, pretty much, because SD Weavile is a beast.
Yeah. It was interesting to see how he wasn't particularly prepared for Mega Venu. On the other side, Enzo actually had EV'd his Mega Venusaur in order to take a Hurricane. Nice in words. A Hurricane from a modest Mega Pidgeot. Which was fantastic. I really enjoyed seeing that. He didn't actually have anything to hit the Mega Pidgeot in return, but it was nice to see these kind of defensive EVs being put to as good a use as possible. And, you know...
without going too much in depth, Enzo kind of choked the game away.
Yeah,
and by kind of, I mean really badly.
A little bit.
But, you know, it happens.
Yeah,
we're going to go into depth in the Union news. Power rankings, there.
Yeah, I thought there were obviously a few misplays on his part. I didn't like how he let his hazard setter go too early to Mega Pidgeot. You know, the plan was to be able to get up those toxic spikes, which was a wise decision on his part, knowing that there were no grounded poisons on the opposite side. But he let it go too early, didn't get his hazards up. How much that would have mattered in the end, I'm not sure. But you know, it was still something that he might have wanted to keep around should the opportunity arise to get hazards up again.
Yep. I'm glad you didn't catch that terrible pun.
I try to ignore as many terrible puns as possible from you.
So you ignore just everything I say.
Basically, yeah. That is how we roll here. What was your horrible pun? Tell me.
You said he let it go too early, and I said you watched too much Frozen.
Oh. So moving on. Moving on. Yeah. So those are, as we say, the week 6 matchups, and we'll go into more detail, as Shady mentioned there, in the Union news. No, that's this one. In the power rankings on Thursday. So a look ahead then to the week 7 fixtures that we're going to be going into, and the trades that have happened, transfers and trades that will be involved in those fixtures. So first up, Anima and the Golden State Dragons.
I'm going to start.
Oh, you're going to start.
I'm going to start.
Go for it. Start. I'm sorry, I've rather stealing Charlie's thunder here. Go ahead.
We're going to start off with Anima and the Golden State Dragons taking on Bice and the Twin Leaf Tyrants. Both teams 5-1. Both teams not making any trades, if I'm not completely mistaken. Yep. Really interesting game. Both are 5-1, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And that's a top table game. Both have played really well throughout the season. Both had one kind of game that wasn't too good, you know.
Yeah.
Their losses, obviously. But yeah, really looking forward to this one, and we'll see who will jump to the big 6-1.
Yeah, that's going to be really looking to get into guaranteed playoff positions with that game. You know, whoever wins, that's going to be in a hugely strong position, looking ahead to sort of playoff times.
Indeed.
So second up, a sort of mid-table scrap going on here. The All Somerset Sizzles taking on the Blastburn Rovers. So that is Sizz versus Kyle. Both teams sitting at a 3-3 record. One trade has happened. Kyle traded away his Magneton to Richie 15,000 and Live Wemple FC in return for Bronzong. Interesting. What do we think of that?
I mean, it gives him a bulky steel instead of, you know, a Magneton.
Yeah.
Bronzong is a really reliable Stealth Rocker, which is always nice to have. Because he has been relying on Excadrill, for example, which you don't always want to put Stealth Rocks on. You know, he has other Stealth Rockers, but, you know. So Bronzong's just a good Pokemon. Magneton, I don't think he ever brought Magneton. Or neither did Dan. So, yeah. I don't see that being bad. Richie is just stacking on Electro types. That's a third Electro type. I'm not sure what he's doing. I'm not sure what he's doing. But, you know, he's just... Electric spam is apparently a thing now.
Yeah, I think... Would we say Kyle's come out of that one better?
Yeah, I would say so.
Because he's already got a very powerful electric type in the form of Thunderous Therian, of course.
Yeah.
So he's not losing a huge amount of electric power, and as we say, he's always been bringing the Thunderous over the Magneton. So yeah, you know, that's going to be interesting to see how he utilises Bronzong, what kind of role it's going to fill on his team.
Banded every week.
Banded Bronzong every week, that big banded explosion. Gonna be pulling through against Sizz's Registeel and Torkoal and Zapdos.
Maybe Sizz will be the first one who's actually prepared for Hariyama. That would be
nice. Hariyama once again has just gone under the radar, as it were, and just people don't seem to be preparing for it, and it's a massive threat. You know, was it not MVP in the GBA one time?
It was in season 2.
Yeah. You know, it's got previous, as it were. It's got a track record in this format. It's very, very good at what it does, and it's very important to prepare for it. You know, and I think Sizz has a team that can deal with it. You know, there are Mons on his team that can deal with it. I think.
Yeah.
Hopefully, maybe, kind of, sort of.
If he believes.
If he believes hard enough. in the heart of the cards or something. I don't know. Anyway. So moving on, who have we got in week 3?
We have
it's number 3 in week 7.
Richie and the Liverpool FC taking on Freedomion and the Welchians. There is, of course, Richie got Magneton, his third electric type, for whatever reason. Richie got his second win. Should put him in a good form, I guess. And Fredo got a win again, so that's nice for him. Both looking to go up on the table again, and the power rankings, of course, to some extent. It's gonna be interesting because they're both really, really powerful offensive teams. It's gonna be a lot of fun to see. I assume what Fredo's gonna do is just check Richie's threats offensively, except for instead of going for a defensive route, because how are you gonna go on a defensive route against Beckham and Kieran Black? Especially with his. So yeah, that's
very
that.
much so. That's
I'm calling Scarfed Sylveon right now.
Scarfed Sylveon is being called, ladies and gentlemen.
I don't know why. I just say that right now.
We'll have to see if he does indeed do that. Be interesting to see that. I'd quite like to see that.
Yeah.
So, with that being the third game, the fourth one we're going to see will be Enzo and the Swiskers taking on Josh and the Kentucky Kecleons. Swiskers sitting at 3-3. The Kecleons, with those last couple of victories in the last 2 games, I believe, sitting at 2-4. One bench trade made. Josh has brought in Shaman for P2 to go up against Enzo, and I don't know if we're going to see if we're going to see Shaman actually in the battle. That might be him looking ahead, because looking at Shaman versus Enzo's team, I don't see it doing an inordinate amount of work. He's got a Suicune, which it doesn't mind, trying to bop. And obviously there's an Omastar. But other than that, I don't see Shaman doing a huge amount of work, whereas P2 could well have done. What's that?
He can flinch to Venusaur with Air Slash, he can Psychic it.
He can. But he could Psychic it with P2 if he really wanted to.
Yeah, but P2 is kind of weak.
Not really.
Weaker than Shaman.
Possible. Well, is it? What's his base special attack?
Yeah, I think so. I don't fucking know.
I don't know. Anyway, that's the decision that Squirtacular Josh has made to bring in Shaman for P2. We'll have to see exactly what kind of impact it has in this game and future ones.
P2 is probably going to, for anyone that's not aware, just make sure.
Yeah, we should probably say that.
Okay, we're gonna move on now to the Highland Houndoons and Jedi Card, who's back, and the LA versus the LA Galaxy Ray, coached by Gabriel. Jedi also made a trade. He brought in the fairly new Blastoise for Sigilyph, giving him a reliable spinner, a really good bulky water. Looking forward to how that thing's gonna work. There are a couple of things on Gabe's team don't really appreciate Blastoise. That'd be Scald Burn, because as we know, Gabriel's team doesn't deal too well with bulky water types. Yeah, but there's the lack of recovery on Blastoise, which should make it easier for him. We have the 1-in-5 Highland Houndoons against the 4-2 LA Galaxy. That's interesting.
Yeah, Jedi's going to be really desperate to get back into form. He's obviously been away for the past 2 weeks, so we'll have to see if he's lost any form in those 2 weeks. Hopefully not. Hope to see a good showing from him. Try and get back into the swing of things with a victory for him. So, to the final game, and we're going to see Xenon and the Slovenian Arcanines with a 3-3 record going into a game against Eric, Ashton Akai, and the Bristol City Fletchlings. They're at 2-4. Now, both coaches have made a bench trade. Xenon has brought in Amoonguss for Spiritomb, whilst on Eric's side, he's brought in Jan Mega for Clawitzer. That's kind of the one I want to focus on, because Clawitzer has been such a massive part of Eric's team. I think almost every week it's been there, and it's put in a decent showing most of those times. So he's traded that out and brought in Jan Mega. I mean, Jan Mega does its thing. It's very powerful, especially offensively. You let that thing get set up too much, and it can really put the hurt on teams. Amoonguss in for Spiritomb. We were saying maybe he did that a week too late, but Amoonguss doesn't mind going up against the multitude of water types on Eric's team. What do we think of those trades, Schady?
I mean, it's the second to last trade for Eric. He only has one more left.
Yeah.
Meaning that he might want to bring Clawwoods in again, considering how much he's used it. That's going to be interesting. Yanmega is a huge threat with its 2 amazing abilities in Speed Boost and Tinted Lens. Is that what it's called? Yeah, Tinted Lens.
Yep.
Meaning it doesn't particularly care about resistances, which is nice. And against a slow team like Xenon's, I feel like Tinted Lens could be really, really helpful for him. And on Xenon's side, Amoonguss is just a good Pokemon, while Spiritomb is kind of eh. And Amoonguss is just a reliable Pokemon, can help him in this matchup. Now, of course, not against Yanmega. That's not a thing.
Yeah. So, with that being said, those are the matches and the trades. So we look forward to seeing those matches happen towards the end of this week. So, finally, what we like to do here, this little segment, just like to see what the coaches are saying about each other and each other's teams. Now, I have to say, a lot of the sort of smack talk going on this week was an extension of last week's. Apparently, Xenon still dislikes Mr. Mime, and he still does want it to clean his room. So, you know, Mr. Mime, there is still a job for you out there. Should you fail to make an impact for the rest of the season, still get a job cleaning Xenon's room. That job is still open. And yeah, you know, just still going off not liking Mr. Mime. Now that Jedi's back, of course, you know, he favours Mr. Mime, so we might see it put in some more performances. Do we think it's going to end the season on a high, Schady?
Nope.
There it is. There it is. Straight up no from Schady. Schady, of course, not one to mince his words, and we have examples of that here.
Oh God.
As we've said, Shardy's participation in the Smack Talk generally comes down to telling Frito to get good, because Schady is hugely original with his put downs,
and they're creative.
He is very creative, and indeed he still wants Frito to get good. Frito,
I'm just trying
responding in kind. Schady put Frito's LBA 9 win streak down to good matchups, bad opponents, and hacks.
Hey, I questions the bad opponents. I don't know the people there. Okay.
Fair enough.
He
but at no point has he suggested that those 9 wins were anything due to Frito's ability. Do you maintain that it is still nothing to do with his ability?
Yep.
Well, Frito, there it is. You've been massively called out here, and not only by Schady. Kyle, K to the 2, wading in, saying that Frito is very much afraid of him. And, you know, it's always nice to when you hear this, to sort of respond strongly, and Frito has agreed with him. Frito has basically just sort of said, yes, I'm afraid of Kyle.
I mean, how could he not?
But, you know, Frito picks the fights he thinks he can win, so maybe he is afraid of Kyle. One person he is not afraid of is Eric, who has suggested... Eric was saying that maybe... What's that?
I thought you were going to say my name. You're not afraid of me.
No. He's not afraid of Eric. Eric was suggesting that maybe he should have got a better mascot for his team, at which point Frito suggested that Eric is a scrub no matter what mascot he takes. Eric, in return, promising to 6-0 him with Mega Ordino. So do we think that Eric can 6-0 Frito with Mega Ordino?
I mean, depends on if Frito gets good at that point.
That is true. I mean, I'm looking down the matchups, and do you know, Eric? I'm not sure. I'm not sure it can be done. I mean, he has an Empoleon, which can kind of put the hurt on Mega Ordino.
Nah, can't mind. It's fine.
Yeah, and well, I don't know. I'm less confident the more I look at Frito's team.
You have seen that Gengar can't beat fairies, apparently.
Yeah, that is true. He has not had the best of matchups against fairies. Those unfortunate paralyses. Paralyses?
Paralysis?
Parahacks. That'll do. So, you know, gauntlets being thrown down left, right, and centre. We'll have to see if indeed Eric can come good on his promise to 6-0 Frito with a Mega Ordino. But with that being said, that is going to tie things up here So thank you all very much for watching. We do hope that you have enjoyed this episode of the Union News. Remember, these are all mine and Shardy's opinions. You may disagree with those opinions, which is of course your God-given right. So, you know, let us know down in the comments what you think of what we said, where you agree, where indeed you disagree, who do you think is going to come out on top in the Week 7 matchups, and indeed, whether you think Eric can 6-0 anyone with a Mega Ordino. So yeah, that is going to tie things up here. Shardy, do you have any final words to add?
No, I'm going to keep my standard sentence away.
There it is. There it is, nothing more from Schady. Fredo, you know what to do, basically, is I think what we're getting at here. So, yeah, that is going to wrap things up from us. Thank you once again for watching. We'll be back on Thursday with our power rankings for this week. So, until then, hope you have a great day, TBU fans, and yeah, we will see you next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.